When I think about the future, I think like most people, really, I think of it in terms of technology. I associate anything to do with the future, futuristic, it's technological. And that's not just now, that's across the timeline of human existence since the beginning of our species. It's technologies that have enabled us to, not just to survive, but to thrive and to spread across the planet. From the very earliest technologies like flints and fire and wheels and things, right up until the present day. And now we find ourselves on the sharp end of that progression of technology. Tech is everywhere, literally everywhere, in our lives, sometimes even in our bodies, woven through everything we do. So much so that we're beginning to question what that might mean for the future in terms of the advancement of technologies like AI. And I want to say straight away that I am not a Luddite. I love technology. We do love it. You know, I love my phone, my computer. I love the way that the technologies that are available to me in my life, in my home, in my work, they enhance everything I do, and I have great hope for technology solving a lot of the problems and challenges that lie ahead of us. But I also ask, what does it mean for the arts? And the arts are asking these questions, particularly in relation to AI, and particularly in the performing arts, which relates to me directly in the live performing arts, in drama, in theatre specifically, which, although, yes, it does employ a lot of technologies sometimes, is essentially a low-tech thing. It's some actors with a story in a room before an audience. And that's kind of the fundamentals of drama. Without that, you don't have drama. And it's especially challenging, I think, as a low-tech art form with companies like mine, and in a lot of the work that I've done over the years with other companies, working in found spaces, non-theatre spaces. My company makes work for found spaces in the city, and we're now developing a new space in the old Spode Pottery here in Stoke-on-Trent. And we performed our first play there last autumn, and it literally had one electric plug. It had no light, it had no heating, no water, just in the corner, a plug. And that's all we had. And we brought everything to it, set, seats, sparks. And of course, we did have a set, and it was beautifully lit. But essentially, it was still some actors with a story in a room before an audience. And I've given my life, my working life, and probably really all my life, because I've always loved it, to the theatre. 34 years so far, and counting. Less than 4, actually, spent working in television, though a lot of people know me from my work as an actor on television. For 20 of those years, a writer, and for the last 11 years, the artistic director of Claybody Theatre company, which I founded with my husband, the actor and director Conrad Nelson. So I stand before you here as a playhouse creature, proper playhouse creature. I'm a playwright, W-R-I-G-H-T, playwright. It's an old-fashioned word, sounds old-fashioned, doesn't it? And I have wrought a lot of plays. And it's fair to say that drama derived from the Greek, meaning to do, and we like to do things, has already been absorbed into so many of the technological platforms, all the technological platforms that have emerged in the last century. Film, audio, radio, and arguably the most accessible and powerful medium of all, television. And this is not a beauty contest. I love all those things too. You know, I love them as much as you do. They're watching the telly and going to the cinema. They're wonderful things. But that doesn't mean that theatre doesn't have its place too, and I want to make that, I want to advocate for theatre today. The appetite for stories told as drama, I don't think I need to prove that point. I think we've got that. You know, the way people sit in front of their tellies, eating up box sets of drama of any genre that they particularly like. That argument, I think, just stands. I don't need to make that argument. But what about live theatre? How is that unique? What does it offer uniquely? Theatre, also derived from the Greek, meaning to behold. So sticking with the Greeks for a minute, Aristotle. Aristotle was obviously Greek guy, Greek philosopher, about 2,500 years ago, just shy of, who was interested and writing about and studying everything and anything. And he was actually particularly interested in human happiness and in human flourishing. And what does that mean, and what does it look like, and how do we achieve it? And he was also very curious and very excited about this art form that had emerged in his culture, which probably maybe grew out of the festivals to celebrate the Greek god Dionysus. And he decided he wanted to kind of deconstruct in a kind of scientific way the elements of this emergent art form, drama, that he was watching. And he wrote a work called Poetics about tragedy. There is also a lost work on comedy, but we don't have that. But we do have Poetics on tragedy, and it's still a very useful document, and it's used in screenwriting, teaching, and I've used it myself in teaching students. And what Aristotle does is he kind of breaks it down, and he identifies the component parts of tragedy, one of which, first of all, he talks about the primacy of plot, story. We need a good story to keep us engaged, to carry us along, to make a journey for us. He also talks about reversals and recognitions, something we might now call twists, things that take the plot in an unusual direction. Suddenly it takes a left turn and we have to follow it. Or moments when things we've assumed about characters or parts of the plot suddenly aren't what we thought they were, and we have a reveal of some kind, very satisfying moments in drama. And he also talks about something called catharsis, which I think we all know what catharsis means. We use it ourselves, don't we, to talk about sort of certain feelings that we might have. But Aristotle coins it in the context of watching drama. The audience watching a drama, through watching the drama, experience catharsis, a cleansing, a release of emotion, or a sort of relief through the power of drama. Not quite the same as it felt cathartic, I had a good laugh, or I had a good cry, or I had a good rant about the neighbour. But we know what catharsis means, and Aristotle has coined it in his Poetics. And what's key, I think, about that for me is that Aristotle is talking pretty much from the point of view of the audience. I could talk to you for hours about what it means to me as an actor and as a writer to work in the theatre and how amazing it is. But actually, it's about the audience, and that's what matters to Aristotle. And actually, that's what matters to me, because I make work for audiences. They're everything to me. Why? Because the audience in the theatre, first and foremost, has presence. It's there, it's live, it's living, just the same as the performers. When you're sitting having your crisps in front of your telly and your box set, that's all great, and it's great for me too. But you haven't joined a self-selecting group of people that have got off the sofa and gone somewhere to sit with other human beings and experience a story. So there's a presence and a power, particularly with a big house. It's really hard to play comedy in front of a small house. It takes confidence to laugh out loud in public. So you need a good big house is powerful. And they have presence, and they have power, and they have agency. The camera tells you where to look. It also denies you where you look as well. The film director who takes you on that journey on the camera, they're telling you where you can look, and that's all you can see. Whereas in the theatre, you can decide where you look. And although you're having that big journey as an audience together, also individually, people in the audience identifying with a different character or they want to check with character A while character B is speaking, because they feel drawn to that person, and they can take their own curated journey through the story to a considerable extent. You have more agency as a live audience in the theatre. And the audience are ultimately collaborators. They have different characters. A warm Wednesday in June on matinee is not the same sort of house as a Friday night in November, or a school's matinee of a Shakespeare play can be the greatest joy you've ever had, or the worst ordeal of your life, depending on how it goes. But they are collaborators in the moment, and they have their own character. And that's definitely true of comedy. The play isn't finished until it's before an audience, and then it gets finished. It's like passing your driving test and then you get out on the road. You know, you're in the rehearsal room, but until you get that work out in front of an audience, until you can smell it and taste it and feel the reactions and know where it's going and time a line and not tread on a laugh, you know, that you weren't expecting, and the shape of it changes and morphs because the audience collaborate in the making of that work. There's a reason why big companies with lots of money that do lots of shows have plenty of previews before they let the press in, is because when it comes out of the rehearsal room, it's not finished, and it gets worked with the audience as a collaborator. And that collaboration goes even further for theatre companies that are rooted in communities. 11 years ago, I had a play. I'd written a play about Stoke-on-Trent. Con and I had come to live here a decade or so earlier, and I'd become very fascinated as a writer with the city of Stoke. And I can't really say why, it was just absorbing me and fascinating me. And as a journey of understanding that place, I wrote this play. And obviously, it was a new play about Stoke-on-Trent, so it was not going to be easy to get on anywhere. But a few people, key people, had read it and believed in it and really loved the play and supported me and encouraged me to apply for arts funding to put the play on. I'd never done that before. I'd never done it in my life. I had no idea what I was doing, but I applied for funding, and I got it. It was quite a lot as well. For a first-time applicant, it was quite a lot of money, and so that was the even bigger surprise that I got it. But then, of course, we had to do it, and therefore, Con and I were facing the challenge that we were doing what is effectively a kind of triumvirate of things you shouldn't do in the theatre that won't sell, a new play in a non-theatre space in Stoke-on-Trent. Nobody will come, they said. Nobody will come to that. And we defied the odds. I'm saying we, the people that came to see it defied the odds. And it was extraordinary that we sold out. There were people waiting for seats. And it also played a couple of nights at a theatre festival in Birmingham. It was amazing. At which point, we realised that we'd sort of touched something we didn't realise. And it wasn't like deliberate or anything. We just had a play and we put it on. And the response of those people, some seasoned theatre goers, some people who would never go to the theatre, had come to this found space in the Burslem School of Art to a play and were so warm and so enthusiastic about that work. And the question was, what are you going to do next? And that hadn't been in the plan. It really hadn't been in the plan at all. So suddenly we've got a theatre company, and it begins to grow, and the journey begins. And it only exists because of Stoke-on-Trent, because of the people who came to that first production, who continue to come and bring their friends and come and support us and tell me what plays I should write next. That's why the theatre company exists. And now we have community participants, we have front-of-house volunteers, we work with schools, we work in other community settings, we've got a theatre club with young people that we collaborate with the YMCA, and we're developing a new found space community and theatre venue in Spode, which is just, as I say, a shed with a plug. And at the heart of it, we're a theatre company. That's what we do. We bring brilliant professional actors and creatives to work with us, to work with our communities, and we're dedicated to making the finest quality work we can for those people, with those people, about those people, to have that live experience, that shared experience of a story in the moment. Which brings me to that sort of personal question, really, about why theatre is uniquely important, and a little anecdote I want to share with you finally about that. Just after I'd left working on television for a period of time in 1993, a long time ago, my first job out of telly was as Sally Bowles in Cabaret. Great part, wonderful play, wonderful show, and a fabulous company. And it was wonderful. It really meant a lot to me, that show. But like all things, it comes to an end. That's what happens in the theatre. It ends, it stops. And actors will tell you, first nights, last nights, it's all a bit weird, a bit poignant, and we all get through it in different ways. And I can't really remember how I coped with that last night, singing each song for the last time, tick, tick, putting the props back down on the props table, knowing I'll never pick them up again, shedding the costumes, kissing goodbye. I'm sure that there was a drink afterwards in the bar. There must have been. And as I was making my way out, finally, you quit the building, it's all gone, you've got to go home. There's a skip outside the stage door probably where the scene dock is there, where they take stuff in. And in the skip is the set of the show. The tech crew had already started ripping it out. And it was in the skip. And I want to say right now, we don't do this anymore. We're very green in the theatre now. We recycle everything. We try really hard. But back then, this is 30 years ago, it just got chopped up and thrown in the skip. I was really gutted. But it taught me something. You know, I couldn't hold on to that set. It's gone. But it stayed with me, paradoxically, all these years because I couldn't hold on to it. We have a little saying in showbiz. I don't know if it's a particularly showbiz saying. Probably have it other places. Hold on tightly, let go lightly. Hold on tightly. While you're doing it, do it the best you can. Give it everything you've got. And when it's gone, let go lightly. Let it go. Because you have to, because the next thing is coming along. And we have to let go of things quite a lot in our business. That's just the way it is. But that's made me resilient. It's helped me to live in the moment. And I think it does that for audiences as well as artists. And the illusion of permanency that the virtual and digital world can sometimes give us is not there in the theatre, because you have to turn your phone off. You're there with the people, with the work in front of you and the people who make it in the moment. So to return then to that final thought about the future, I just want to leave you with this. That the power of stories is undiminished, we know that. And that this ancient art form, this Greek art form of storytelling, theatre, it is unique, it is special, it's still relevant and meaningful, and it has a really important place in our human well-being and our flourishing, now, in the moment, and also in the future.